Welcome to Inbound After Hours, everybody. Today, we've got a very special guest. We've got co-founder of Unbound, Ollie Gardner. Hey, Ollie.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, fantastic. Firstly, I heard you got married recently. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I did, yeah. It was actually in August, but we kept it quiet for a while.
Sorry.
We eloped, and then we were going to do something else, but we didn't. So I announced it on stage at a gig in December. I pulled her up on the stage.
Awesome. Yeah, it was December. I saw it. Yeah. So, well, congrats for that. Did you manage to get some time off work?
I just had a really crazy month of content in January.
I saw that. Yeah.
Insane. So I published the final roundup, 7,000 word roundup post.
Yeah, I was reading.
2 a.m. on a Thursday. Friday morning, we went to Mexico for a week just to chill out.
Good. No, it sounds like a good idea to me. We did a similar thing about a year ago. Obviously, not writing them all ourselves. We shared it across the team, and we did 30 blogs in 30 days.
Right.
But between, I think, about 5 of us did it, so it was a little bit less stressful, but still, it was stressful. So I can imagine if you tried to do a bulk of that work on your own, then that's a huge challenge. So well done for that. How did you find it? You said I read on that blog you were talking about there, it'd been a while since you'd sat down and wrote for the Unbounce blog. How did you find getting back into that?
It was 2 years, and it was amazing doing it, but I needed the challenge. If I hadn't said to myself, you got to do 30 and 30, I would have maybe tried to do 3 and I would have done none.
Yeah, exactly.
I needed the ridiculously of it to kind of inspire me, and it ended up being 20 because I stopped doing weekends so that I didn't get divorced.
Yes, so soon after the marriage, it's the blog every weekend. That's not a good start. No, definitely. So we just jumped straight in there. Forgot to ask you the obvious question. For the people who don't know, could you just tell us a bit about what you do now and how you ended up doing it?
Yeah, for sure. I am one of 6 co-founders here at Unbounce. We started back in 2009, based in Vancouver, in Canada. And when we began, I was the sole marketer. And now you have a marketing team, I don't know, like 30 people.
Wow.
Or something. I spent half of my time roughly as a public speaker.
Great.
Although maybe a little bit less this year. And other than that, I just try to create content, like new content. Usually because as a speaker, I create a lot of new ideas and new stuff for that, which turns into the content I then put out for the rest of the year kind of thing.
Awesome. I guess a lot of our listeners will be the sole in-house marketer, and you've gone from that role through to building a team, now through to kind of being the contributor to that team and the front person for the company. How have you found that transition, and kind of what have you learned along the way?
I started speaking maybe 2.5 years ago, I think. And, after originally being kind of guilted into it, but I quickly learned to love it, and I don't really have any fear of it anymore. I still get the tingles, but when I'm on stage, I just absolutely love it. It's the best thing I've ever done in terms of personal growth, meeting new people. Like, it's great. Whenever I go on the road, I'm going to hang out with some of my best friends.
Awesome.
It's really cool.
Definitely. So I've seen you speak, I can't remember if it was Inbound last year or the year before.
Year before.
Yeah, year before. So I know firsthand you're a good speaker, and on a lot of your stuff I've been reading through in prep for this, you talk about speaking a lot and the sort of ratings you get. A lot of people are scared of speaking, want to do it for the first time. What tips have you got for people who are getting into speaking, and also why should they?
Well, I'll do that part first. Why should because it changes you in terms of, like, building a personal brand it's important. The respect you get, just the capability to present who you are and what you know. There's no other way of doing it that has the same kind of impact. I mean, for me, I'm an introvert, except when I'm on stage. So it helps you grow in that way as well. You become more confident, I think looking at me now versus 3 years ago, it's night and day.
Really? Did you go through any coaching, or have you just learned it all yourself? What approach have you taken?
No, I'm kind of obsessive, so I just kind of dug in. When I was starting, if people want to kind of get how I did it, there's a Medium post called "It's Okay to Puke."
Okay, is that a good insight into how this went?
It's okay to puke as a public speaker.
Okay, cool.
And it's a pretty funny post about how it all began. But yeah, it just, that's a good starting point, because I give a lot of explanation as to how I did it. I mean, my commute on the bus then, I don't live there anymore, so I drive, but
Yeah.
it was exactly 18 minutes. So I watched a TED talk on my phone on the way to work every day. So when I got to work,
Wow.
pumped up, thinking I can change the world, and it was just a good way of, because you'd find some of them that are like, oh, I need to do what that person just did.
Yeah.
Something I did was so special. So I'd bring some of those in. I read a bunch of books about speaking, but other than that, yeah, just self-taught.
Awesome. I think what I remember from the talks I've seen, obviously I've watched a few on YouTube since as well, is just data. You bring that to the table better than anyone I've seen. And you go to a lot of marketing conferences, and there's a lot of big theory topics discussed. And sometimes you're left thinking, yeah, that's a great idea, but what do I do with that?
Yeah.
And is it going to work?
Right. Yeah. Being actionable is really it's kind of our MO here, with our call to action conference, and just the fact that, just the concept of landing pages, they have one thing to do. It's kind of an actionable concept. So I try to follow that when I'm speaking to you. Also, I've seen too many talks like that as well. And if I can't educate, entertain, and inspire, I'm not doing my job right. Those three things are what I look for. And the entertain part is the one I like the most.
Yeah.
But I know that if I get people to laugh in the places where I want them to laugh, then I'm in control.
Yeah.
And they're getting the benefit that I'm hoping they will.
Yeah, I mean, it really works, because like I say, I go to a lot of conferences and things, and you look around the room, there's people sat on the phones doing email, and kind of they're in the room but they're not. And I think if you get them hooked with a bit of something out of the box, or like you say, just something funny, and kind of get the heads up from the screen to listen to you, then that's job done. And I think humor is a good way to go about doing it.
Then the worst thing is, I've never seen it happen with one of my talks. I hope it hasn't, but I've been in some boring talks, and you look around and there's people asleep.
Oh, no.
and that usually gets on Twitter. Someone sees it, and no reference to speakers. Like, this isn't fun.
That's the bottom bar of where you're going with speaking, isn't it? For someone asleep in the room. No, definitely. I think one of the things I've also noticed about Unbounce is you do a lot of co-branded stuff, like days or events and stuff. I think we took part in last year's digital agency day with HubSpot, and that was when I first noticed you guys getting involved. I think you've got something going on this week on a similar sort of vein as well. Yeah,
Marketing Optimization Week.
Yeah.
Starts. Yeah, it's this week. 4 days of tons of free content.
Yeah. How did you guys get into co-branded, and why? Is it a good marketing opportunity that a lot of people don't do?
Yeah, we used to do a lot for webinars.
Okay.
We partner with people. Well, usually we did them ourselves, and we'd have a guest, and it was their thing. We just hosted them, and I did the same on a lot of other people's ones. So there was co-marketing there. Usually it was a lead share or something. Okay. So you both promote it and you swap leads.
Yeah.
But then these bigger ones. So we did International Conversion Optimization Day. That was the year prior. It was massive.
Yeah.
Then we did another one, then Digital Agency Day, and now we did PPC Week recently, and now we're doing
awesome
Marketing Optimization Week. So it's it's just a good way of getting strengthening our partnerships, which is important, and everybody does their part to share it and try and make it a big event. Yeah. So it's kind of cool.
It's obviously working. If you're doubling down and doing more each year, then it's something that works for you. I guess from, obviously you guys don't fall into this category these days, but if you're in a smaller company, it's good to align yourself with brands that have got good affinity with the personas you're going after. Like, these brands are seen in good light. If we're up there and our name's alongside them, there's some sort of benefit from that as well.
Yeah, and the good thing about the model, this lead share, most of the leads are done by us, either because of our type of marketing, or just, we're setting it up, so we push a bit harder. I've seen the leads come from others, and some are tiny, some are not bad.
Yeah.
But you can be a small brand who has like a similar approach. So we're like, hey, we want to partner with you. They're not going to get that many leads from it, but they get to participate. right?
Yeah.
So that's a great way of getting exposure if you are a new company, and you can just kind of make that kind of thing happen, regardless of how many leads you might get, just the exposure. Because usually each of those sponsors will have a speaker in there.
Yeah.
That's also how we choose them too. We don't, it's not sponsored speakery kind of thing. It's, we choose brands who are relevant to our audience, but also we know they have someone who can actually deliver.
Yeah, and that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did you, obviously when you go now and it's you and it's Unbounce and you go to someone about one of these events, it's probably quite an easy buy for most of the companies you go to. Thinking back to the days when you were the solo marketer and Unbounce wasn't on the map, how did you find getting other people to help you with leverage, even if it was something as simple as guest posting or something like that, even if it wasn't an event? How did you find approaching companies and actually getting them to take you up on any sort of offer that you had?
Back then it was a lot of guest posts, and you know, a lot of places you have to, well, you need a resume of content before you approach someone to do a guest post. Some are really rigorous and it takes forever to get in. Some are, it can be hard, but I started on the Moz blog because they have their open UMoz blog where you put anything on there and it gets promoted to the main blog. I think, did I hear they actually shut that down?
They did, yeah. Sadly, I was actually in the middle of writing one.
Right.
I've got one on there back a few years ago. I was writing one and it came through saying to shut it down. I was like, damn you. I guess I can use it on my own site. But it's a shame.
It is a big shame. I mean, they're going through some transition times, so I
of course.
get it. But that was massive because back then the Moz community was just huge. And you get something working on there, it's great exposure, which is a smart move because we had a tiny blog at the time. Yeah. If I put the types of giant content I built for them on our blog, it would have been a waste.
Yeah, no.
So,
I've found it surprisingly easy to get people on this show. So when we started this last year, it's been about a year to the date since we started. Right. We had ourselves on the podcast and then we started outreaching to people. What I found is most people say yes. Like, you've just got to ask. And I've not had a negative response from anyone. Obviously, some people ignore you. But the vast majority of people are pretty open to doing it. And I think a lot of marketers are scared of going out there because it's a big name or it's somebody everyone in the industry knows. But I found people pretty receptive. I don't know if that's just the marketing industry and if I worked in manufacturing or engineering, whether I'd find the same. But I've found it okay just going and saying, hey, we do this show, it's to help marketers, do you want to be part of it?
It's so true. And it's because it's easier than, it depends what it is. Sometimes, I mean, I'm better now, but I used to be a bit nervous about it. It's like the whole imposter syndrome. You're afraid of being asked a question that you're like, and also I like to be prepared because I know some questions are very referential to the past or something. So I like to dig into my memory or ask other ones of the founders or whatever. What happened then? But I've got over that for a large part where I don't usually ask for questions anymore, but I used to all the time. Because, when you're getting started doing this kind of thing, you want to appear smart. And some prep does help.
It definitely does.
But in terms of effort, other than being crazy and writing thousands of words and notes, it's low. It's low amount of effort. So, and it's usually really fun because you're having a conversation. So.
Yeah, it's quite easy. I think I've stopped writing on the blog since we started doing these. This is kind of my replacement for that. And I think a lot of guys have done the same, which is sad in some ways. But like you say, the effort of, okay, I've had to set a camera up for 10 minutes, I've come and talk, but then we use this as a video. So we use it on our own blog. We use it on YouTube. We post it on social. It goes out to like 5 or 6 podcast channels. Right. We transcribe it and we put it on the blog. And it's funny, if you do one of these, they're about 8,000 words. So it's pretty reusable. From this half an hour slot of having a chat, you get a hell of a lot of content from it. So
yeah, and it's smart too because it is the kind of up and coming medium, right? I mean, everybody has a podcast now, which also is the problem.
Yes, yeah.
Because yet again, a content marketing medium, we are all battling someone else. I've actually been thinking about maybe rebooting our podcast.
Cool.
In a different format, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, we found it a good medium for us. And I wish we'd gone and set goals back at the start. And that sounds like a bad thing for marketers to say, but we just said, let's see what happens. And we took the approach. It's a bit like our blog. We know this will take a year before we see anything out of it. And actually, it hasn't. It's done well. I think we get about 750 to 1,000 listeners a month.
Right.
Most of them are from the US, so I don't have a clue what they think about our Northern English accent.
Where are you?
So we're based in a town called Clitheroe, which is north of Manchester, pretty much middle of nowhere. So we've got some pretty broad accents here. And we had Rand on a few weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure he didn't understand a word we said.
Yeah, I'm a Geordie.
Oh, really? Wow. So I'm from Durham, so not too far away from there.
Durham.
How did you end up all the way over there then from?
So I was there till I was 10, then moved to Scotland, grew up there. And then I came to Canada like for a year after uni in 95. Bumped into a grizzly bear on a trip in the US, fell in love with the idea of photography. Awesome. Moved back to the UK, worked on my permanent resident application, then moved in 2000.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is home now. All my family's still in Scotland. Fantastic. So, but luckily, I mean, I don't think I'm getting back this year, but for the last 3 years, I've been speaking at Touring Fest in Edinburgh, which is awesome. So getting flown home to see your family is kind of cool. Yeah,
definitely. How have you found the approach to marketing over there compared to back in Scotland or England when you lived here? Or have you found the sort of attitudes are different?
I don't really know because I've never worked over there in this realm. Like I was a programmer for like financial futures and options derivative trading platform in London. Like
rolls off the tongue.
Right. I do see differences when I go speak there, which hasn't been very often. I mean, Scotland and I've spoken to London once. Things in some regards are a little bit behind.
Yeah.
North America. Not as much as say Eastern Europe or South America. That's quite different. But yeah, I don't know. I find, especially in Scotland, they're very, very grateful.
Yeah.
Wonderful audiences because there are no decent marketing conferences in Scotland, really.
No.
Touring Fest is like one of the only ones that's like that actual, world-class quality. So
yeah. I found we're HubSpot partner agency, so we spend a bit of time in Boston, and whenever I speak to their marketing team and our customers in the US, they're a lot more risk acceptable. Probably the other way around. We're more risk averse, so a lot of people over here, if you lose £100, they're bothered. Whereas in the US, when I was speaking to Matt Barbie from HubSpot, and he was saying, look, 75% of our marketing just fails. And if it didn't, we're not pushing the boundaries enough. And I don't think that attitude's probably reached here yet. But I think we're getting there. And I think we're catching.
I think so. Yeah. Actually, I've spoken in Dublin a couple of times as well on that. And I find similar types of experience level to Scotland. It's interesting. It's definitely accelerating. I think
I think so. I think there's a lot of exciting startups in the marketing space here, and I think over the next couple of years, I think we'll get there with maybe not quite where North America is, but we should get very close behind, which would be cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You'd think because of the internet, everybody on this level playing field. But it's strange that it's not quite like that.
No.
It is some of those approaches where, I don't know. I'd love to know kind of what the ratio, for example, of percentage of tech companies in the UK who have a public speaker, like a public face as a speaker compared to other countries. That'd be really interesting.
I bet it's really low compared to North America. Whenever I speak to someone from HubSpot, they're just like, how are you so photogenic and ready for video just off the bat? I said, when you come in, does everybody go through a public speaking training course or something? They're like, no, it's just the way we are. We try to get a lot of our clients onto video. Obviously, like you said, it's the medium that's moving forward at some pace at the moment. And the number one objection is, who's going to do it? Because I'm not.
That's a common fear.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I mean, and seriously, I've got to get some better lighting in here. This is terrible. It's kind of This is campfire life. You want under here. It's like,
yeah, it's very strong. You've got, I like it, like what you've got in the background there. Most of the companies that we speak to over there, we have a room where we do video and stuff, and
yeah,
that'll be cool when we catch up over there, because it is a huge medium, a huge opportunity, and no matter what you Google, you get a video result back. And most of those results are American, and I think it'd be good to have some friendly faces and accents on our answers to our questions.
Definitely, yeah. And it's important having that local expertise, because especially when you consider it's probably there, but it's not exposed often enough. Because we have an office in Berlin, and we do a lot of translation. We have a blog in German, Spanish, and Portuguese, and a site. So it's like a mini version. And that does really well. If you look at the conversion rate of foreign language, those three specifically coming to our English site, the conversion rate's like 0.4%.
Yeah.
When they go to their own language, it's like 10 times that.
Wow.
Which awesome. Is crazy, just because you're respecting someone by delivering it in their language. Because, if you look at the number of marketing experts, obviously it's heavily weighted to North America. They don't speak German or whatever. So the more we can help push some of this content in other, places, I think it'll accelerate things even more.
And less competition as well. If there's less people putting it out in Spanish, German, French, then the market's there for the taking, isn't it? So that's a huge one. So obviously, given what you guys do at Unbounce, be wrong to not speak about a couple of things. First one, pop-ups. I've seen some pretty heated debates, probably you involved in time to time on Twitter and such like, about pop-ups, and obviously you guys have launched a product in it. So how have you found that? Because out the box marketers hate pop-ups. Like, they think they hate pop-ups anyway, but are we just too precious about it because we know what it is, and should we focus just on the results you get? How have you gone about marketing something that
it's not easy
subject?
So we are a landing page we're a conversion platform for marketers now. Landing pages was our bread and butter. Now we launched pop-ups and sticky bars. And it is a challenge because of not so much because of what they are, but because of the stigma that's been created by people misusing them. Right. I've said often the technology is not the problem. We are. It's the marketers who don't care enough to respect their visitors who are breaking the experience. And as long as you're adding value and putting it in the right place, like similar to what I said about the conversion rates of different languages, if we've had a customer who put pop-ups on their homepage and on their blog, they were both, I think, for the same thing, subscribe to blah, 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 about content or whatever. That's incongruent with your website. It's not anything to do with what you do. And that converted at 0.02 or like some horrible number. The same thing on the blog, converted at 14% because it's relevant, it's useful. So as long you don't do things like that, you got to use the right targeting and triggers. We have some pretty advanced stuff in our product for that. So make sure you're giving it to the right people. You can do geolocation, you can do cookie targeting, you can do URL referral targeting, all that kind of stuff, and set the right frequencies and triggers, and you can create a great experience as long as you're providing value. Like our events, like Marketing Optimization Week, we convert between 15 and 30% on exit, saying, "Oh, if you can't attend because it's an event, we'll give you the videos for free when it's happened." And people love that because that's extremely valuable. It's free because a lot of places charge you for that type of content.
Definitely.
So it's just about how you use them, and if we just think of them as a simple interaction device, that's something that's available. Then I have to write a post today actually about the new Chrome ad blocker.
Oh, cool.
Because there's a lot of fear that it's going to block pop-ups, but it's not unless you're doing it wrong. They have there's an organization, ad standards thing or something, Better Ads.
Oh yeah.
And they're outlining the characteristics of ones that will be paid attention to by Google, and potentially, you get warned, I think. But I've got to go through all that today and explain that it won't actually impact 99% of what you're doing. Here's a couple of things you should not be doing. It's when you have an interstitial. So when you arrive, it's right there, full screen, and there's a countdown on it. It's not like that. It's kind of like Forbes. I want to know what happens with Forbes, because they have that 5-second delay.
Yeah, that huge full page thing. And I mean, I've given up clicking on Forbes, I'll be honest, a while ago. But they have an amazing ability to rank for a lot of stuff.
And it's annoying because all they're doing there is giving some bullshit, like inspirational quote. I'm like, how does that increase brand affinity? I like you less because you're making me read that. I don't even know if they have anything that's financially beneficial to them on that page. Just annoying.
It does. You think they must be aware that people are annoyed by this, because I've been on Twitter more than once and vented my spleen, so I'm sure other people have as well. You do wonder how they get away with ranking so highly for stuff with that there as well.
I know. So that'd be interesting to see if they get dinged, because there's a few other things like on mobile. I'll say mobile because that's how you guys say it, and it's how I used to say it, and I still try to, but then down in the States they say mobile, so I keep hearing that. There's an E on the end.
Say it.
Flashback to Eddie Izzard, because there's a F and H. Herb. It's I don't know what I was talking about. But anyway, like say on a mobile, if you have a sticky bar, so they're the little ones, if you make that more than 30% of the screen size, I think that's one of the criteria that also might get you in trouble. So we actually just built something into our app. So when you're building a sticky bar, if you try and make it bigger, then, you make it really big, we recommend 100 pixels, don't go above that. So we're actually building this recommendation engine inside the app to try and educate people. And, so the more we can do that to increase the percentage of people creating nice behavior, the more, hopefully, from our perspective, we see some of these negativity go down, because the customers we have who use this stuff properly have amazing results.
Oh, I bet. I've read loads of studies about pop-ups and stuff of that nature, and the results, when, like you say, when used correctly, are exponential. I think a lot of it comes down to doing good marketing, and it sounds really basic, but having your screen covered is not a good experience for anybody. Having no way out of it is not a good experience for anybody. If you're kind of fair and decent with it, you've got no problems with most things in marketing, have you? It just comes back to that.
I wrote for this product awareness month we did in January. There's 20 posts I did. One of them was 11 surprisingly delightful pop-ups scored by the delight equation.
Wow.
So I created this mathematical, I reverse engineered a really good pop-up into an equation that you can then measure yours by, and it includes things like, the interaction mechanisms. So in terms of closing, there should be the top right corner close. There should be the link or whatever to say no. You need to be able to, this is for ideal points. You have both of those. If you hit escape, it goes away, or you click outside it. Those 4 things, you do all of those, you hit 100% on the interaction thing. And then there's the psychology of the good cop, bad cop, like, yes, I want this, no, I hate making money. Nonsense. So like, it scores it based on you not doing these things. It's just a really great, simple mechanism to know if you're doing it right.
No, I love that. And like you say, all the education work you guys are doing on that, hopefully it'll just drag the knowledge in the industry up and stop annoying people which gave it the bad name in the first place. I think that's...
well, when we launched it, we've lesson learned here, but we were calling them overlays at that point.
Okay.
Because I was it wasn't my name, but what I was trying to do communication wise was draw a line in the sand. Like, if we talk about a bad experience, that's a pop-up. Talk about a good one, that's an overlay. So kind of like a historical, okay, it changed now. But we find out it is complicated to market that. It's lower search volume, and trying to put it in your marketing when you just want to say pop-up, but you say overlay, and you explain what an overlay is, and then people just go, isn't it just a pop-up? You're like, yeah, it is.
We'll just call it that then.
So we went back to that, and it's helped.
Like you say, I think the number one place I've seen people go wrong with that is just not realizing what point the buyer's journey the person's at. So I think you gave the good example of, you go to your homepage, pops up subscribe to our newsletter, which probably not why they're on the homepage.
No.
More appropriate to when they're on the blog. I think if you have a good think about your personas, where they are in the buyer's journey. You should have your pages mapped against those stages, and then you can show a pop-up which is relevant to where they should be.
And think about behavior. If someone goes to your pricing page, to your SaaS, and they leave, they could be going to look at the competition. They could be going to ask permission. They could just not be ready.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't stick something in their way that time. I would have a frequency of, on their second visit, if they exit the pricing page, I would ask a question or say, hey, you can get a discount, or what's stopping you buying, or da 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 da. So that kind of thing, but not on the first one, because that's just a bit too aggressive. And, you know, I think the best way of looking at it is that kind of this gut check where you just think about it and go, if that was me, would that be annoying or would it be helpful? And just ask those questions before you do it. It's just like, we have some emails going out as a bit of content as part of our crew that's trying to get more adoption of the product for our customers. And in one of these emails that they've created, they come from me. And I'm going to probably go talk about it. I thought we have a testimonial from a customer, and a bit of the copy next to it is, well, it's supposed to be playful. It's like, blah, blah, what a handsome devil he is. Yeah. So I changed that to handsome chap because I thought it was a little bit, but then I was thinking yesterday, I was walking around and I thought, okay, well, what's gut check here? If we reverse that and had a woman's photo there, would we say, oh, isn't she beautiful or pretty? No, you can't do that. So why is it okay to say it about the guy? And if you think about it in both of those ways, you're like, oh, actually, then I shouldn't do that. And I'm probably going to email them and say, hey, let's change that because it's not the way it should be.
No, it's a good approach, isn't it? I think one of the best pieces of business advice I was given on is common sense isn't that common, but in a lot of ways, common sense just rules a lot of things, and marketing's no different to that. And I think, like you say, if you can just ask yourself those questions, you're going to be right 80% of the time. I think that's awesome advice. So getting onto landing pages, for anyone that knows you, they've probably seen long video rants of you ripping down landing pages, left, right, and center. I'd probably say from knowing where our audience is, most of them probably have landing pages in some variety, but they're probably quite templated, forms on the right, image descriptions on the left. They probably never tested them. Someone in that situation, what should be the first thing they go and test?
I never run a test ever in your life until you've done some research, because you need to find an observed pain before you try and solve that problem. If you just go, I'm going to change my headline, or I'm going to change the button color, you're not thinking like an optimizer. So for that, I'd look at scroll map, click map. I just look at, I'd want to try, and it's something I've really been getting into last year. It changed the way I work. What I call micrometrics. So your conversion rate is not enough, because let's say you, actually, I'll get into that in a second. Let's say you have, because everyone thinks you have to put stuff above the fold, like your call to action. Yes, sometimes, but we found a lot in our experimentation. We put it at the bottom of the page, because if you look at a scroll map, when it's at the top, you might see they only get 30% of the way down, or 50. Yeah. We put the CTA right at the bottom of the page. It means they get to have a less distracted reading experience at the top, but they also have to hunt for the CTA. So they scroll further, see more of your content, may become more of an ideal customer if they then convert, because they saw some of the features that when you're in the app, if you didn't see that, you might go, oh, I wish it did this. And it probably does do that. You might not be able to find it based on the UX of the platform. So things like that. You have to experiment with that, but do that and then look at the scroll map. Is it increasing engagement? Yeah. But then micrometrics for me, because let's say 90% of A/B tests you run don't win or lose. Yeah. They just flatline because you've not talking to the psyche of motivation. Yeah. So you can't influence it. And you think, oh, they both convert at 10%. Well, then I'm just going to pick this one because it's new, or I'm going to stick with this one because this one didn't beat it. Yeah. But if you don't look at deeper at the micrometrics, so that might be, I did an amazingly interesting test where an experiment where I use a conversational form, which is a script from a agency in Denmark called Space 10. It'll change your form into a chat-like thing. And it looks like a chat environment. It's really cool, kind of humanizing. Awesome. Yeah. But so I tested that, converted at 8.3%, as did the one with the regular form. I'm like, so I dug deeper, and I looked at some click maps, and 12% of people were clicking on the first question, like the bubble, which is the first question, which is, what is your first name?
Yeah.
They were clicking on that because it's a new interaction model they don't understand, but that's not clickable. You have to click below it into the typing area, which is only one, so there's no longer 4 fields or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was a micrometric, like 12% are clicking the wrong thing. Then number of spam email addresses. I was worried because it might look like a chat bot, that people would be scared to put an email address in. Sure enough, something like 55% increase in spam and fake email addresses.
Wow.
And a 72% reduction in branded professional email addresses, which are name at companyname.com as opposed to joe@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Well, the first one, because when you do your email marketing, it's going to their business account while they're at work. Yeah. That's what you need, is better email marketing. So there are 3 measurements of, in this instance, this page failed massively. If you only look at conversion rate, you're doing it wrong. And if you publish that, your business is going to be tanking because of all those 3 broken things. Then so knowing that, it's a collaborative design process. I have data-driven design process. That's my talk, actually, Marketing Optimization Week. I encourage people to watch that because it's a collaborative optimization process for your team, to get your marketing team to work better together, because there's a lot of frustration. I think marketing teams are dysfunctional, so this can help you fix that. But when you have these micrometrics, that's a design challenge. And then the designers and everybody, you can work on designing, like sketching solutions to those 3 things, trying to change on-page behavior, basically, by doing those. And if you can design little experiences that change on-page behavior, you're becoming an optimizer. Then that's an amazing thing, and you did it in the right way. So I really encourage everybody to watch that video because you'll learn a lot.
No, that sounds awesome. There's so many marketers and agencies and people out there these days who say they're data driven, and when you get to the bottom of it, they aren't. Right. I think it seems to be the phrase people like to say they are at the moment. I think anything like what you're doing in terms of building a structure around it or a process to follow is awesome, because I think a lot of people get lost of where to look, and they get data paralysis. And I've got all these things. How should I know what to do and what to test first and why? And
that's exactly what this process is about. It begins with, and to be clear, I prefer the term data informed over data driven. You should be data informed, customer driven. Talia Wolf said that. I love that phrasing. Yeah. But in this, I chose data driven because it's 3 Ds, and I like it. And so the first part of that is the 3D playbook. So it's a big interactive sheet where you choose the page element you're interested in optimizing, and it will filter it and say, you should look at these 6 types of data instead of the 150 that you are imagining. It's overwhelming. It's not going to bother. It gives you a starting point, and it tells you all the sample sizes you need, and it creates worksheets for you for data collection, observation, and micrometrics. So like it's a really functioning team tool that I built. And it's cool.
That sounds really good. So respectful of your time, I know we've overrun a little bit here. Just to finish us off, we always ask what your tip would be for marketers out there. So if you're an in-house marketer, what would be the one thing you'd be focusing your attention on today?
I guess we just talked about it.
We did. Yeah.
Especially in-house, because in-house you're working with a copywriter, a designer, a marketer. You know, that's kind of a big part of your team structure, most likely.
Definitely.
The framework I built will make your team work better together. I share a lot of data at the beginning of it about how frustrated, particularly marketers and designers are. There's a lot of this, often under the surface, that's not talked about. Yeah. And this helps remove some of that frustration and builds empathy, not only for your customers that you're watching do things through the data, your visitors, but it also builds empathy for your team, knowing, wow, I'd never seen you work like that before. Copywriter, that little sketch you did to solve this problem is amazing. I never would have thought. So, and showing them where to get the data and what it looks like. So you're all aware what this, it's not just like this black box that the marketer sits in the corner and looks at data and then spews out what they think.
Yeah, it's so important.
Together. So when's this going out, do you know?
This will probably go out next week, I guess.
I think my talk is on Thursday or Friday, but it's going to be recorded. I've already recorded actually in advance.
I'll jump you up the queue. Don't worry. We probably. I don't think most of these are pretty evergreen. So if there's a time you need, we'll jump it up the queue and give our listeners a hand. So we'll post the links to those below and see if we can get some people on that, because I think it's a great.
Yeah, and thank you. I really appreciate that. And this is a selfless kind of thing. My mission, my goal when I speak is to educate people so they can do a better job as a marketer, and it's pure that, right? It's not pitchy or anything like that. Just become a better marketer.
No, I love that, and that's the exact aim of the podcast as well. So let's get those two things aligned, and let's get that on there. That's awesome. So no, really appreciate your time today. Know you're a busy man, so thanks for coming on the show. Loads of value for the listeners and viewers as well. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I could chat this all day, so got to cut it short before I do. So thanks very much for your time, Ollie, and hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you.